Okay, let's look at the example question on optimal input decision. Optimal means profit maximization, right? Camel Records produces records according to its production function Q equal 4L minus 0.15 L square. So here, Q is the amount of records produced, which is output. L is labor units in factor market. So basically this production function means how many output of records you can produce when you insert L amount of labor. So in labor market, labor per unit costs $5. So that's the wage per unit of labor. And Camel's records sell for $2 in market for records. So here, Camel records that is sold in output market and per unit price is $2. So we assume perfectly competing market. So Camel's record price is equal to the marginal revenue of Camels, right? So decide the optimal profit maximizing quantity of input labor. So how do we tackle this question? We use the previous page principle, again maximizing profit, but then by adjusting input labor, by equating additional revenue when you hire one more unit of labor and additional cost when you hire one more unit of labor. Additional unit of labor earn additional revenue, right? So it's a marginal revenue from additional labor, and that is equal to marginal cost from additional labor. So how can I write this expression in equation? First, additional cost you need to pay one more unit of labor is you pay wage for that additional unit. So marginal cost from additional unit of labor you hire is basically wage or the price of labor, which is $5, right? So we know what will be in the right hand side of the equation. The complicated things happen in marginal revenue from additional labor hired. So when you hire one more unit of labor, that additional labor will produce additional quantity, right? So let's say delta L, increase in labor, which is basically 1. This is 1, you can think it. But then delta Q is additional increase of output, right? So when you hire one more unit of labor, you increase output, which is record here. And that additional increase of output will generate additional revenue. So this multiplied two terms, how many units you can actually produce more by hiring one more labor, and that additional units, each unit will generate additional revenue. So when you multiply these two, basically you're calculating additional revenue by hiring one more unit of labor. So if you look at that first term, the first fraction, that is definition of marginal revenue, right? When you increase one more output. And the second fraction is basically changing output by changing labor, that is marginal product of labor, right? So these multiplied terms we learn that is marginal. Let me write it here. So this is marginal revenue product of labor. How much additional revenue or product input can earn? Marginal revenue product of labor. So what am I supposed to do? Here, I have to calculate, so this term, marginal revenue from additional labor is basically marginal revenue product of labor. That can be calculated as marginal revenue from output multiplied marginal product of labor. And for perfectly competitive firm, Camel Records, marginal revenue is basically same as price. And we know the price of a record is $2. So we just need to calculate the form of marginal product of labor. So marginal product of labor, which is basically delta Q over delta L, can be found by using the production function. So if you look at the production function, Q will be determined by 4L minus 0.15 L square. So when you calculate marginal product of labor, you apply delta operation to here with respect to L. So you have 4 minus 0.15 multiplied to L, right? So basically you have 4 minus 0.3 L. That's marginal product of labor. So if I rewrite this profit maximizing principle with respect to labor input decision, I'm equating marginal revenue product of labor equal to marginal cost of labor. And on the left hand side, again, marginal revenue from output increase multiply marginal product of labor, right? So, and on the right hand side, we know it's the price of labor, which is wage rate. And we know it is 5 on the right hand side. On the left hand side, I know marginal revenue for competing firm is equal to price. So if I rewrite this one again, price of record in output market is 2. We just calculate marginal product of labor is 4 minus 0.3 L. So here, that's the equation. You can find L, profit maximizing labor input from, right? So if I continue, maybe I can distribute this 2 to each term. That gave me 8 minus 0.6 L equal 5. And maybe move this one to the right, move this one to the left. Then I have 3 equal 0.6 L. So L equal 5. So 5 units, that's the profit maximizing or optimal input decision. 5, right? But then of course, we know quantity of output, Q, will be determined by this production function. So when you plug this one here, you know what is optimal profit maximizing output. So 4 multiply 5, 1.15, 5 square, right? So you have 20 minus 0.15 multiply 25. So if I continue the calculation, I have 20, I have 20 multiplied. If I multiply this one, that give me 3.75, I think. You can recheck. And then this will be 16.25, right? So as soon as you determine labor input, then production function basically determine output. So input decision is equivalent to output decision. Thanks for watching.